Another essential element of writing in general, not just in narrative writing, but in writing in general, is the use of figurative language. And you're going to be challenged to use some figurative language in your own writing. You want to use imaginative language in order to sharpen descriptions for your reader. You want to use metaphors and similes to describe setting and character, those comparisons that exist. You can try personification to give human qualities to non-humans. Alliteration and repetition brings flavor and pop to your writing. If you have a snarky character or want to exaggerate, you can always use hyperbole as well. These are all elements of figurative language. I'm going to take you through each of these one by one with an example from how it went down, with the exception of personification. So my first example for a simile, she walked past us, her hips swinging like nothing we had ever seen before, like she had an invisible hula hoop around her waist. Reynolds uses the word like to compare the way her hips swang back and forth, like it hadn't had this invisible hula hoop around her waist. So simile is a comparison using like or as. Metaphor. My hair was in braids. I knew I could get away with not having a fresh shape-up, easier than they could get away with not chopping that Sunday dinner off the tops of their heads. This is Ali talking about how he didn't need the haircut, but Noodles and Needles needed a haircut, and comparing their messy hair, that Sunday dinner on top of their heads, to their actual hair. So a metaphor is a comparison, not using like or as. Personification, again, giving non-human entities human characteristics, wind whispering, babbling brook, dancing trees, again, puts more vivid imagery into the reader's minds. Hyperbole, crumbs exploded all over his lap. Reynolds, page 115. Hyperbole is that exaggeration for specific purposes, so the crumbs didn't actually explode on his lap, but the reader can visualize crumbs everywhere because of that exaggeration. Repetition, against the grain, or go with the grain. Black said that's pretty much how he learned everything he knew. He learned to braid hair from watching his mom get hers braided. He learned to fix things by watching his mother's boyfriend. He learned to cook by watching his mother in the kitchen. In this example, Reynolds uses learned several times to try to explain how Black has come to be this master of all trades. And the way that he repeats learns several times, it draws attention for the reader that Black has worked really hard to get where he's at. So that's a really great example of what repetition can do in one's writing. And lastly, alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of that first initial consonant sound in at least 2 or more words. So the worst part about Noodles always bumping his gums is that our neighborhood is like one big bubble of gossip. And I chose this one just because you do have only the 2, but the bumping that leads up to that and the bubble, so bubble, there's that buh, that forceful buh repetition. Reynolds actually uses a lot of alliteration in his work. It's actually really, really strong. I really enjoy it. So that is alliteration. So these are just some examples of figurative language that you can use within your own writing to make it stronger for the reader. So what you're going to do is you're going to write about the following image, and you're going to use at least 3 different types of figurative language. So 3 from that list, and you're going to set your timer for 8 minutes to write about the following image.